Thank you all the panelists. I think you all know that we are going to discuss reimagining universities, and this is very important. Why, at this particular point of time, we want to have this discussion. Why is there a need to reimagine universities? I think one of the biggest development that is happening around us is the digital era. एंड इस डिजिटल इरा में जो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन की पेस है इतनी इंसानी तारीख में कभी तेज़ी नहीं रही है. And what we are also seeing along with the digital era is actually a rapid rise in adoption of e-learning, artificial intelligence, or democratization of knowledge that we are seeing. ये जो knowledge है ये बड़ा लंबा अरसा यूनिवर्सिटीज़ की दीवारों के उस पार जो है वो कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड होता था. जो नॉलेज जो है वो अब डेमोक्रेटाइज होता जा रहा है. तो दिस इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट डिस्कशन दैट वी नीड टू हैव टुडे. व्हाट इज़ द फ्यूचर ऑफ यूनिवर्सिटीज़, व्हाट इज़ द फ्यूचर ऑफ लर्निंग, और द वे वी बीन डूइंग थिंग्स, विल वी कंटिन्यू डूइंग द सेम वे, और इज़ दिस टाइम टू री इमेजिन यूनिवर्सिटी एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन. बहुत सारे सवालात मैं इसलिए पहले रखना चाह रहा हूँ ताकि हम टोन को सेट कर सकें. जैसे अक्सर लोग कहते हैं कि यूनिवर्सिटी जो है वो इज़ एन आइडिया ऑफ इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन ईरा, कि जब हमें वर्कर्स चाहिए थे उस वक़्त के लिए हमने यूनिवर्सिटीज़ बनाई. बट व्हाट काइंड ऑफ फ्यूचर इज़ लाइंग अहेड. सो टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट हाउ यूनिवर्सिटीज़ आर गोइंग टू अडॉप्ट इट. सो इस सारे पैनल में वी हैव वेरी सीनियर एकेडमिक्स विद अस, एंड देयर इज़ वन पर्सन हु इज़ फ्रॉम द टेक सेक्टर. So मेरा ख्याल है I'd like to start this conversation with Dr. साद लियाकत. डॉक्टर साद लियाकत जो हैं ये CTO हैं एक ब्रिलांस ग्रुप में. They have a number of companies. One of the companies Thunder AI, Soft2 and many other companies as well. डॉक्टर साद लियाकत जो हैं वो अपनी पिछली लाइफ में प्रोफेसर भी होते थे. तो वो जो मुश्ताक यूसुफी साहब कहते हैं कि बंदा एक दफ़ा प्रोफेसर हो जाए तो हमेशा प्रोफेसर रहता है, तो उससे अगली बात नहीं मैं कह रहा चूँकि बहुत सारे प्रोफेसर बैठे हुए हैं. So Dr. Saad, I just want to have this conversation. We talk a lot about what are industry expectations. Are universities producing the talent that is needed in the firms, in companies? और उसको मद्देनज़र रखते हुए when we talk about universities job, are they producing graduates for the past or graduates for the future? So this is the question that we have for you, and we are posing this question because I understand आप continuously recruitment में, hiring में young talent के involve होते हैं. तो आपका क्या perspective है? And you've been on the other side of the table as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Thank you also for putting me right on the spot. And so universities, I'll take a step back, and fundamentally universities were places where knowledge got created, right? And universities are still doing that. I think that's the primary purpose of universities, their existence, so on. It was perhaps only at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution that universities needed to create graduates who had skills as well, other than knowledge, because the market had advanced and they needed skilled workers. I think the primary job still is creation of knowledge, and universities, when they go through that route, they are creating graduates for the future. So the people who go through the postgraduate programs, masters and PhDs, they are not readily needed by the industry, especially in market like ours, which is a developing country, and not a huge portion of our industry is innovation-led. It's mostly skill used on an assembly line to produce something, create something of value. And for that, we need skilled workers. Now, essentially, universities, when they plan an undergraduate program, which nowadays is essentially fundamental knowledge, passing on of fundamental knowledge to graduates and some skill set. When they plan that program, it is planned with what's right in front of them, what the market's demanding, and a projection or estimation of what market may need in the future. But the markets change too quickly, especially in this era of AI. It's changing on a monthly basis. So it's not fair on us to expect universities to be that agile and change their programs, the skills they pass on and train the students on to match exactly what the market needs. So I think that would be unfair. Coming to your exact question, if they're producing graduates of the past, so as I said, I think that will only be essentially about I would say off by a year or so, maybe 2 years or so, that's still acceptable. But the graduates that do get produced, what we would like to see from the perspective of the market, what we would like to see is that producing people who know how to learn, who are good micro learners, and they have aptitude to self-learn, take on new projects, take on new topics to learn. And I think only then they survive the change or the dynamic nature of the market. Uh, Finally, if I would make a suggestion here to the audience and to the panel members who were essentially running universities, that to be agile, one thing that could help is allowing students to have not just summer internships, but semester internships as well. I would even say that if they do not carry out an undergraduate project, and they carry out a full semester of internship, and that could qualify in place of their semester project in some disciplines, not in all. I think that would be a fair assessment as well of whether the skills that they were supposed to demonstrate after a 4-year program or 3.5 years, have they taken those skills up? Somebody else could verify that as well. Because essentially he's learning and getting a graduate degree to enter into a market who is going to hire him or her based on some skill set. And talking of skill set, what's happening now is the skill set, the domain is changing so fast that the graduates that do come to us, fresh graduates and even early career professionals, we spend at least a year in training that person to be really useful to us. And not only what we are spending on that person with respect to salary, but also the people who are the senior engineers who are spending their time, giving him that training is also an investment by us. We could possibly divert that investment into creating micro-learning programs, working with the universities. It could be accredited learning, a couple of credits per semester, and we could pass on those skills that we eventually require in the market from those graduates. Sorry, I dragged on for a bit, but your question was very pertinent.
Thank you. I think that is a very pertinent point, that the way markets are actually changing, and sometimes it's unfair to expect that everything universities need to do. But we'll come to this question later, that in this sort of a partnership, what should be the role of universities and what should be the role played by other partners in that aspect. सो जुबैर साहब आपकी तरफ आते हैं. सो होता ये था कि जब भी कोई क्वेश्चन पूछना होता था तो प्रोफेसर साहब की तरफ जाया करते थे. तो अब जो है वो बच्चे क्या करते हैं, देयर आर सो मेनी अपॉर्चुनिटीज अवेलेबल इन डिजिटल लर्निंग, एंड ऑल्सो देयर आर टास्क विच वी नेवर न्यू अबाउट, एंड यू कैन जस्ट गो टू AI, डिफरेंट टूल्स, एंड यू कैन आस्क दीज क्वेश्चंस. एंड उस सारे प्रोसेस में what will be the role of universities now in this scenario, कि जब जो knowledge है, जो material है, जो learning है, जो information है, वो is widely available without university going to the university. उस segment में university का क्या future है, and are universities aware of this change that is happening, and how universities need to adopt for that?
Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Nadeem, for arranging this wonderful opportunity for all of us to discuss the futures that is looming large in front of us. We must understand that we have been hit by a bus. This is the most abruptive thing that could have happened in the last 100 years. Disruption has happened. Everybody is talking about this. Information age, knowledge age, and this AI age. In one word, we are not ready. But the good news is that there are opportunities available. In 2023, there was a report came out of the World Economic Forum, and they said that all the redundant jobs which have a repetitive nature of work are endangered species. So if you're a teacher, you're a lawyer, you are a finance professional, or a person who is doing a repetitive job, or even a doctor, the GP, you are an endangered species as far as your nature of job is concerned. So since all these professions are coming out of the universities or the academic institutions, so we have to go back the way we are. I think we have to see it from three different angles. the biggest challenge that we are facing or going to face in the university environment is the physical infrastructure. Do we need this much physical infrastructure that we have in our universities in the presence of virtual classrooms or integrated learning or smaller spaces where people are interacting with each other, where you have your own avatars interacting with you? You may be sitting at one place and your avatar is teaching at some other place. So physical infrastructure, for me, is going to be obsolete unless there are some particular lab facilities or there are some facilities where some animal testing or human testing or agriculture testing is being done. The second part is economic infrastructure, where we are spending our money. So I think this is also going to be drastically changed. We are getting funding from different institutions, or maybe funding is coming from public sector programs or from the development partners. So it will be, rather it has started already, be attached with the performance or the event-based or the activity-based. But the most important part is the intellectual outcome. What are we producing? And here comes your question. Here comes the job market and here comes the entrepreneurship environment. As far as the universities are concerned, particularly I'm talking about the public sector universities, we are in a regulatory stranglehold. We are living in yesterday. I'll give you an example. Most of the universities in Pakistan have taken inspiration from the Punjab University Act 1973. And that act has been replicated by changing small things here and there, and we are living in that world. We can't do anything. So you are talking about the AI, the future, the 2035, but we are living in 1973, and we are not ready to budge from our place. So this regulatory stranglehold, we need to come out of this. And then we have to think about the future. That this is the future, that where we are. One last thing that I want to comment on that, and that the participant initially talked about, the skill-based and the industry development. In Pakistan particularly, it's a chicken and egg story. Whether the academia should improve first or the industry should improve first. In the last 7-8 years, engineering is a declining field in Pakistan. This is a serious concern for us. We have the demand in the 1990s of the engineers that were used to be there. It is not there. Why? Because there is no industry. Yes, maybe civil engineers, because the civil infrastructure is being worked on, the mechanical, the electrical, and all the other fields. They are in a serious problem. So if the industry is not growing, then how can academia can leap a big forward and join hands at some place to have a marriage at a mutual point of interaction? The last thing about this thing is, and I'm very happy to say that he's pointed out, is the skill-based. We have been talking with Nadeem Javed Saab. He has been the honor of being the chief economist of Pakistan, and now he's leading a big think tank, policy think tank in Pakistan. I think the more focused area is the human resource now. Unfortunately, our industry has already been on the serious decline. There's a minus growth in the big industry in Pakistan. So this skill development, particularly focused in the TVET area, is the way to go. And here we must invest in the universities with all these three determinants, the intellectual, the physical, and the economic determinant that I've pointed out, towards that force. And then we have to maybe retransform this whole model of BS, MS, and PhD programs. I'm sorry, I've taken a bit long.
No, I think that's a wonderful aspect, that before moving ahead, I think that what you've mentioned about the regulatory constraints that universities face, and whether those are coming from those legal statutes or, other government controls, that is obviously an issue that we need to discuss in detail at some other point. But that's very pertinent in a way that if we are talking about the future, then this structure cannot take us to the future.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the point well taken. So Dr. Khalid, I think we are having this discussion about the changing role of universities. But what is actually important? Like last time I was having this conversation at PIDE on AI in education, and I asked this question कि अगर दुनिया की बड़ी-बड़ी universities में जाएं, तो what is the distinguishing factor? क्या होता है? And what we reached out at a consensus, it's actually the teacher. So जो professor है, that makes the university different than जो distinguish करता है universities को. So in this age, when we are talking about artificial intelligence, digital era, so how universities are currently in Pakistan upskilling their faculty, HEC की तरफ से क्या हो रहा है, universities के क्या initiatives हो रहे हैं, are we doing enough in this regard, or do we need a new approach for upskilling the faculty to deal with the challenges of digital era, and if we have to reimagine universities?
Thank you very much. First, let me acknowledge and thank PIDE Vice Chancellor and organizers and URAAN program at the government level initiative, which is very important and critical for the next 10 years to have implementation. And certainly it's a great opportunity to have exchange of views on that. And coming back to your question, I think it's very important to look at the university's role in these changing times and also in the times of disruption, when the technology is far ahead of the rest of the sectors, perhaps are not moving with that kind of pace the way it should have been. Having said that, the important stakeholders for the university's development and growth are the students, faculty, management are very critical, and they got to be empowered. If you look at the previous model, it was teacher-based and teacher-centered learning process. But now it's a student-centered learning process, and it's outcome-based, and it has to be skill-based with the competencies and the skills which are needed for the employment possibilities. And you have very rightly got it started with the stakeholder, which is the industry, where the product and the graduates got to be employed, and how they actually give the feedback and views on the curriculum as well as on the learning outcomes of the students. And if you look at the international ranking criterias, this is one of the very important indicator that how fast the students of that universities get employed. And that means that they got the skill set which is needed by the industry, and the gap is no more there, and they are readily employed, and they may not even need the kind of training which is required, and they can be readily employed and can be on the job. And having get that done in the 4-year degree program is very critical and challenging. And if you look at from the different perspective, from the curriculum, you can develop a very good curriculum. Higher Education Commission has got it revised in 23, undergraduate as well as graduate curriculum. And then it's the intended learning outcomes. The next important stakeholder is faculty. And in the earlier session, there was a discussion on student-teacher ratio. And certainly it's much, much higher. If you look at the top 10 or top 100 universities, it's probably 1 to 12 or 1 to 15 max. And here it's much higher. So how you can reduce? I think the way forward is the adoption of technology. And if you look at the education technology, that can give you enabling facilities and opportunities that you can move much faster rather than going into bricks and mortar, which we have been doing in most of the time in development projects. I think the technology is the way forward. And then having said that, if we look at with 170 plus universities, our access rate is not very high. It's around 13%. And compared with the other countries in the region, it's much lower. And we have to see, but as you go into enhancement of access, then quality is the next important challenge that you have to face. How you are going to train faculty, which you have rightly pointed out, and how you can actually get the learning outcome with all the infrastructure and facilities which are needed. Michael, in the previous session, was talking about LLM and generative AI. How can you do that without fast computing facilities, infrastructure, access, internet, bandwidth, 4G to 6G? People are now talking about 6G. We are not even at the 5G level. So as you move with the complexity and with large data available and then got to get integrated into the curriculum, you need the infrastructure and facilities. But having said all that, I think there are good universities in Pakistan, and if you look at out of 270, almost 50 universities, public and private sector, they are visible in international ranking. Okay, one can debate, at least they are in the radar, but at least they have shown some seriousness. But of course, there is a long way to go to enhance the quality and move forward in the ladder so far as the ranking criteria are concerned. International students, learning outcomes, graduate attributes is very important and critical. Previously, we were talking about ethics and technical education, core requirement, tolerance, sustainable societies, SDGs. These are all very important elements you got to build in into the curriculum, so that the student, when completing their 4-year degree program, should come out not only with their core competency in the knowledge domain, but also should have a well-rounded personality to work in the industry or in organization, and also helping the society at large. So universities have a very important and critical role in modern times. And of course, AI is a very big enabling technology which is going to bring a lot of changes. For example, the libraries will not be the same in the next 5 years. They are going to be transformed into learning spaces, and so would be the universities. It may not require the kind of infrastructure the way it is in physical sense, but a lot of online and digital platforms are available which can provide the great opportunity in terms of comfort, in terms of flexibility, agility. As far as the credit hours are concerned, people are talking about microcredit, nano credit, and modular development of the credit hours certainly can facilitate the students. And I think these are the kind of new approaches that universities got to implement. But unfortunately, as you mentioned earlier, and Dr. Saab has also indicated, regulators have a very important role to play. I think you have to identify universities, classify them into 3 categories: research universities, teaching universities, and the universities which are doing just in their modular domain, so that you can then provide the adequate funding. Look at the Malaysian model, for example. They have identified 20 universities, out of which 5 they were given very special grants, so that they are in the top universities of the world with all the facilities and infrastructure. One can have a discussion on that, but I think a new universities which is established 2-3 years ago, asking and expecting that they are going to be on top of research and infrastructure, and their ORIC will be good, QEC will be doing well, and they are going to be in the startups and spin out technology. That's not fair. So I think we have to have a change in the model, and Dr. Saab rightly pointed out the statutory framework which is implemented in public sector and also to some extent in the private sector university. You have to rethink and come up with the new models. There's no university in Pakistan which, if you look at their act, can really give you the space and flexibility to move as fast as which is needed in the need of the hours, to implement technology in speed and quality, so that you can deliver in terms of the learning outcomes and the graduates that
थैंक यू डॉक्टर साहब हम इस पे बाद में थोड़ा सा आते हैं मेरे ख्याल में थोड़ा आगे बढ़ते हैं
so these are the things which are very important and will continue.
Thank you. Dr. Homa, so I think when we were earlier discussing, Dr. Saad mentioned that university's role is not just what to learn, is actually train students how to learn, and particularly this is important in this era when learning is again, I would say, democratized. So एक perspective ये भी है कि अभी आगे चल के universities जो हैं, they'll have to focus a lot on soft skills, because this information, knowledge, that will be available, but soft skills that requires a lot of mentoring, so that will be missing. People who are just reading something on chat GPT and they are not getting mentorship. So इस सारे process में what do you think that universities का role क्या होगा स्टूडेंट्स को, अभी वाले मॉडल से कैसे ये चेंज कर पाएंगी यूनिवर्सिटीज़? तो मैं अक्सर ऑन अ लाइटर नोट, पीपल ऑफ्टन आस्क मी व्हाट विल ह्यूमंस डू व्हेन एवरीथिंग एआई विल बी डूइंग इट. सो आई से दैट इंसान जो हैं वो इंसानों वाले काम करेंगे फिर. तो वो इंसानों वाले काम क्या हैं, एंड हुज जॉब इज़ एक्चुअली टू ट्रेन अस इन दोज ह्यूमन वैल्यूज़. सो हाउ यूनिवर्सिटीज़ कैन ट्रांसफॉर्म दिस मॉडल, और वेदर देयर इज़ इवन दिस नीड टू डू एंड टू थिंक अबाउट इट कि ये मॉडल कैसे चेंज होगा जिसमें हम इंफॉर्मेशन पास करने की बजाय नो करेक्टर बिल्डिंग, सॉफ्ट स्किल्स पे फोकस कर रहे हैं।
शुक्रिया नवीद। मैं तदरीस से वाबस्ता हूँ कोई 27-28 साल से, और HEC की बहुत इज्जत करती हूँ, रेगुलेटरी बॉडी की बहुत इज्जत करती हूँ, पर उनसे बहुत तंग भी हूँ माजरत के साथ। बट हैविंग सेड दिस, लेट मी शेयर द आउटकम ऑफ अ स्टडी very recently done at MIT. They plugged students who were sitting in the classroom. MIT की classroom थी, तो हमारी classroom से तो बहुत बेहतर classroom होगी, लेकिन classroom का structure वही था। प्रोफेसर बात कर रहा था और बच्चे सुन रहे थे। And when they measured the mental activity of the students, the audience listening to the professor or the teacher, उन्होंने ये पता चलाया कि जो मेंटल एक्टिविटी थी ना बच्चे के दिमाग की, वो उससे भी कम थी जो सोते हुए होती है। So before we reimagine universities, we have to reimagine the classroom. ये सारे पीछे बच्चे हंस रहे हैं क्योंकि इन सब के लिए ये सच है, you know, because they just tone us out. जो क्लासरूम टीचिंग है उसको इन लोगों ने सीख लिया है टोन आउट करना। This generation is plug and play, you know, that's what they're used to. So जब आप कहते हैं ना कि reimagine the universities, मैं हर दफा turn around होके कहती हूँ reimagine the classroom. The classroom has to be turned into, it's not a classroom anymore. The classroom has to be turned into a learning lab. And yes, we want professors, and yes, we respect PhDs, and yes, I am a PhD, but I don't know that the teaching tomorrow would be so PhD oriented and that we must create classifications that have just been identified. So bringing the pracademia to the classroom and bringing the industry to the classroom is a must. बहुत दफ़ा जब मैं एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप पढ़ाने की बात करती हूँ और मैं उस बंदे से एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप कराने की बात करती हूँ जिसने ज़िंदगी में कभी कोई स्टार्टअप ही नहीं चलाया, जिसने ज़िंदगी में कभी कोई काम ही नहीं किया, उसने एक कंसेप्चुअल थियोरेटिकल फ्रेमवर्क बहुत अच्छे से पढ़ा है। तो अब जो बच्चा है या जो अब आपसे मार्केट मांग रही है, वो कंसेप्ट और थ्योरी की जो, अगर हमें से एक मैट्रिक्स पे प्लांट करना है तो इट इज़ अ 20-80 मॉडल नाउ. The conceptual frameworks and the theoretical frameworks still occupy a 20%, but the 80% is practical learning, hands-on learning. So what do reports tell us? Reports tell us something very interesting. I was looking at it and it said, I have it right here. Employers all over the world, by the way, this is World Economic Forum, and I was a part of this session when I was there in January. They said, कि जो 34% बच्चा या 34% एम्प्लॉय आपके पास वो रुकता है जिसके पास डिग्री नहीं होती. जिसके पास 4 साल की डिग्री होती है is more likely to hop jobs. Why is that happening? Because this person who does not have the degree is doing hands-on learning during the job. We need to bring this hands-on learning into the universities. और वो जो एक concept था ना, A, B, C, D job. So now I'm an engineer, now I'm an architect, now I'm a doctor. That, by the way, is over. It is about constantly reskilling yourself. So in other stats, once again, World Economic Forum, 50% of employees globally will need reskilling by 2025. We're sitting here, we are in 2025. So the whole concept of relearning. And then the lubricants that you talked about. We used to call these soft skills. Now when I teach my students, I call them survival skills. Because unless you have this emotional intelligence, the ability to work in teams, the ability to connect, the ability to network, the ability to communicate, to be articulate, you will not survive in the market. You will also not survive AI2 and ChatGPT, because the engineering that is emerging is prompt engineering. How good a prompt is for a response to happen. And our challenge is immense. Our challenge is that we need to prepare graduates for jobs that have not been born yet. वो नौकरियां, वो skills जो market को जरूरत है, वो अभी पैदा ही नहीं हुई हैं. तो ये जो ABCD का फॉर्मूला है ये कंप्लीट फेलियर है. फॉर्मूला ये है कि बच्चे को मजीद सीखना सिखाएं, उसको ये सीखना सिखाएं कि नई सिचुएशन, नई नौकरी, नए डायनेमिक्स में वो कौन सी स्किल्स इस्तेमाल करेगा कि वो सरवाइव कर सके, सीख सके और आगे बढ़ सके. These are skills that need to be taught, and our universities prepared for it. I have serious reservations. I sat in a business school for 17 years. I was at IBA for 17 years, and I saw major loopholes and problems there, and I see major loopholes and problems here because we are still, how do I put it into words? We are in the box. ये जो बॉक्स से बाहर निकलने की और सोचने की ज़रूरत है वो बेइंतहा ज़रूरी है. एक आखिरी बात जो मैं गुजारिश करना चाहती हूँ, जो मुझे पिछले चंद 6-8 महीने में मैंने ग्रैपल की, और मैं चाहूँगी कि जो दूसरे वाइस चांसलर्स बैठे हैं वो मुझे बताएं. जब कोई सोसाइटल इंजीनियरिंग करनी होता है ना किसी को भी, तो वो हम यूनिवर्सिटीज़ को एक चिट्ठी लिख देता है कि कैरेक्टर बिल्डिंग करा दीजिए. ठीक है, अभी एक और चिट्ठी आई है कि कुरानिक क्लासेस शुरू कर दीजिए. ठीक है, पाकिस्तान स्टडीज तो हम पहले से पढ़ा ही रहे थे. तो जब मैं ये वाले क्रेडिट्स कंप्रेस करूंगी इसका कैपिटलिस्ट कॉन्स्ट्रक्ट में, तो फिर मेरी जो कोर टीचिंग है वो कम हो जाएगी. तो प्लीज हमें ये चिट्ठियां लिखने से पहले सोचें कि हम यूनिवर्सिटी के क्या करने बैठे हैं. और एक जो लार्जर माइंडसेट है, मैं इस पे बात खत्म भी करूंगी. Our mindset still is where we privilege order over truth, facts and needs. And unless we reverse that, I don't think we can reimagine the university, we can reimagine the society, or we can reimagine the classroom. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you. So, Dr. Khalid Hafiz, actually, because you are also an AI academic, and when I look at current opportunities or challenges that universities are facing, और जिस तरह डॉक्टर हुमा ने मेंशन किया अबाउट द सिचुएशन ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स, अभी क्या हो रहा है, आई इंटरेक्ट विद जो स्कूल में जाता है. सो व्हाट डज ही डू एक्चुअली, द पीपल हु कैन अफोर्ड दिस, वो क्लास में बैठते हैं, टाइम गुजार के आ जाते हैं, रात को आके चैट जीपीटी से पूछते हैं ये टॉपिक क्या है और कैसे हमें बताए. सो ये स्टूडेंट्स अक्रॉस द बोर्ड इस वक्त हो रहा है. एंड आई लुक्ड एट इट डिफरेंटली एंड आई सॉ एक्चुअली व्हाई इज दिस हैपनिंग. सो हो इसलिए रहा है कि देयर हैज़ बिन दिस नीड ऑफ पर्सनलाइज्ड एजुकेशन. Everyone learns differently, but we've been teaching the same way 50 students, 100 students. So I'll just give you one example that, this ads and marketing. So I see ads different on my Insta, you see ads different. What kind of reels they are showing to me, what kind of reels they are showing to you are different. That is highly personalized content. So there is so much what we are talking about, the challenges that AI is posing. So there is this opportunity with AI that we can personalize learning experience for students. So if we have to, sort of reimagine this role of a university where they can personalize learning for every student, then how should we reimagine this path? What universities need to do? We had this discussion so far that we are lagging behind, but we also need to go ahead. And what opportunities are, what universities need to do. So we'd really like to listen from you as an AI academic as well as Vice Chancellor of BUTMS. Thank you.
Ji, thank you very much. I think a lot is said in there. I think maybe I'll take up something which already been said. And I think I'll bring in some experiences actually out of my 37 years of my academic experience. 35 years I've spent in UK. So it's 7 universities. I've been professor and deans and professor in a research university like University of York. I was professor and professor in polytechnics, which are teaching universities in UK. So I've experienced of both, as well as I've been 5 years in Dubai, which is where I was a dean for the Smart University, which is online learning experience. So I think I have the experience from purely online to blended learning and to physical learning. And there are different learning experiences we have. And the debate which we are doing right now here, I think I had 20 years back the same debate in various UK universities as well, to reimagine and rethink universities and their structure and how we should imagine future. Lekin that debate is carrying on. I don't think anybody has sought a real answer to that. I think that's what I'm trying to get to. And I think we have to pause and maybe address the main question: why do university exist, and why should university exist, and what is the role of universities in job creation, roles of university in building societies, building individuals, or building a main kind of objectives for a nation building. So I think there are a number of things which we have to think about. And I think these number of complex questions coming into our play, which we have to address through universities as an institution. This is what we're trying to do, and more in Pakistan. I think that while we all agree that the way the universities have been structured and the way learning and teaching is going on in the universities is outdated, I think we should welcome the disruption. And AI is a disruption, but I think it is very welcoming disruption, which is looking at and questioning all our model of teaching learning in the universities level and how we approach in terms of our students' learning ability and different learning ability. I think that's what we need to see through. And if we agree that universities are not to teach old knowledge, previous knowledge, or bookish knowledge, the latest book which is published is 5 years old knowledge. If universities are not for that, then I think this is where problem comes in. Because to me, university is for the future knowledge, and university generate the future knowledge, future innovation, and society has to follow, industry has to follow. This is what not happening in Pakistan. I mean, think about top universities, top countries in research, top countries in innovation. Universities are gearing them forward. In here, we prepare students and we send them to industry. They say they're not ready for it. So there's one problem comes in, that what universities are doing, what's the main role of universities. So if you're doing our research, innovation, bringing different products or processes or frameworks in the marketplace, and the society is adopting it, then we are at the top of it. If the followers are of it, then perhaps the university has to rethink itself. Why do we exist? I think the other problem in this dilemma comes in terms of the structural level of learning which is taking place in terms of frameworks, policies, and governance of these universities. While you rightly mention about personification of knowledge, like everything is happening in personalized level, our system does not allow us in here, in Pakistan, to have that kind of adoptable, flexible way of like learning MOOCs, micro credentials, taking it somewhere else. And while we talk about that a number of learning which you can achieve from different places, where work-based learning is important, learning at internship is important, then why not we consider that? Why don't we recognize the APL, the accredited prior learning element? We don't have that model at all in Pakistan. That you cannot take few modules from here, what you have learned. I mean, I was yesterday battling with the PEC, which is the Engineering Council. And they would consider is that if you've done a master's, that is at no value. If you've done a PhD in engineering, is no value. Undergraduate, if you've done engineering, then you're considered as a member of the Pakistan Engineering Council. I say, but they're doing that from 19 to 23 years of age limit. What about somebody who's done a PhD from age of 30 to 35? Aren't they more mature? Shouldn't that be considered that knowledge? Yes, but our framework does not allow it. So I think we are back, and you go to Medical Dental Association, they exactly have same problem. And I was saying to one colleague, I think in the previously, who happened to be from the medical school, that we teach our students to give medication. We don't give them treatment. That's the problem. And this is what university exists for. So if you think about what university is offering is not only skill-based. If you have to do the skill-based, you don't need universities. Universities are not there for teach skill. Skills are taught to them to get to access to our job market, right? But what we, full package we provided them how to be an independent thinker, how to be a responsible person, how to be a productive member of the society and live with the society. And those aspects is coming in from, not from taking only AI courses, which is ChatGPT. So there will be that we cannot avoid the complete infrastructure for these institutions. But we do have to rethink about how much infrastructure is needed. And in here, if you see the difference, quite complete difference between vocational based learning, skill based learning. Think about it, sitting in UK, sitting in USA, which kind of our students are employed outside? Medical doctor, purely fact based learning, right? We are very good in rote learning. Engineering, IT, skill based learning. None of the social scientists, no one from the business school, no one from social sciences school is employed outside. Why? And this is where the problem is. So where the skill base is, we talk about soft skill and hard skill. I think what university is going to provide for these students, so where we have innovation labs, do the latest technology, teach new products for these people to learn from the universities and go and take it to industry, fine. What about the social science area? What are we going to teach them in the universities? What model they're going to learn? Why do we need? Do we have labs for them? What learning they're doing, acquiring from the university infrastructure? So there is a very big challenge in terms of there. And in terms of teaching and learning, I think with respect, the pedagogies in Pakistani universities, Middle Eastern universities, even Indian universities are used, especially in social science. It should not exist. This is not adult learning at all. If you go to even a city school, Beacon House school, they have a better pedagogy of teaching and learning to our kids than what we're doing in the university level teaching and learning. So there is a big problem. And coming to Madam Huma, you were saying earlier on, once they've done some thinking and innovation kind of experiments, they find out once you send the students, kids to school, they're more imaginative, they're more innovative. The way we bring them, we reform them by restrictive thinking into school, to college, and they become to university. They become, in the end, whatever you want to call them, they're, brain dump people who are sitting in there, who are all told not to think anything beyond. And this is where the problem is in classroom teaching learning, as we're saying. We have to, not to reimagine university, we have to reimagine the classroom in terms of how we're doing the teaching learning. So it's not about the students. I think my biggest problem is we have 8,000 students. I got about 600 faculty members. Out of them, 300 are PhDs, 70% of them from foreign qualified. Good researchers, very good researchers, they publish paper. They don't know how to manage the class and what to teach in the classroom. And this is where the problem is, that they don't know how to teach in the classroom. They can be good researcher. A good researcher is not a good teacher. And unless we can bring in our recognition system, promotion system, progression system, looking at what we want to generate for the society, it's not only publishing 10 papers and give them a professorship which they are aspiring for. And this is where the structural changes are needed in terms of reskilling our faculty. If we reskill our faculty, the best faculty I got was, he was 72 years old, Jim Hiskett at Howard Business School. And once he was speaking, it was pin drop silence. Nobody can take away his or her eye out of him. 72 years old, so energetic that what learning I've done with him in a period of 3 months, I've not learned it all my life. So this is where the power of teacher comes in. So you cannot take away that power of teacher from the classroom. And this is what I was saying, that you have experienced online learning during COVID time. The kind of BAMSIs we have produced during that period, you can compare them that where they are if they were in a physical classroom. And this is what we experienced, the model of blended learning from the Dubai experience. So we know that unless they come into some area of physical classroom, their learning is not complete, the social infrastructure is not there. They don't think about together we are bouncing ideas and taking things forward, living in society, networking, and character building,
I
which
think
you get from there.
when we started from here, obviously the discussion was around reimagining universities, and when we reached in the middle, so it shifted to reimagining the classroom. So now what you are talking about is actually reimagining the professor. So let's see where we end up, So that is an interesting one. And also, I think I also have this conversation with universities and educational institutions. And I always tell them that this AI is threat and a disruption to a teacher who is just transferring knowledge. So because that transferring is happening so well that we cannot match it and we cannot personalize to that extent. So what is actually missing is the imagination part, is the future part, how you are preparing the student for the future. So that is becoming more and more important, where a professor can help them to imagine future. So the most important member in the room, I won't say elephant in the room, is Higher Education Commission. सो मैं एंड पे डॉक्टर नदीम जावेद की तरफ आना चाह रहा हूँ, चूँकि वो हमारी चेयर भी नहीं ज्वाइन कर सकी, तो आई वुड लाइक हिम टू just reflect on the discussion overall that has happened. But HEC is obviously, two questions I have. Obviously, how much discussion is happening right now within HEC to changing these governance models of universities to adapt to this future that is in front of us? And second, also, I think there are a lot of questions around, again, around this 4 year of education degrees. यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के अंदर ये 4 year का मॉडल, आई अंडरस्टैंड एक स्टेज पे आईटी में आई थिंक देयर वाज अ डिस्कशन कि 2 year डिग्री इंट्रोड्यूस करवाई जाए, और इस तरह की डिस्कशन जो है. सो व्हाट इज़ हैपनिंग विद इन HEC and how you are working towards guiding universities or providing them support in this transformation process?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First, I was just on the lighter side, has made a mention about HEC. Sometimes I get pleasure when somebody is talking against HEC. A year ago, I was sitting on the other side of the table and had the same feeling. So I'm sometimes happy to hear that, because I cannot say anything about HEC because I'm getting salary from there. So I don't tell this to my chairperson. So this is I think there's a philosophical issues with our education system, because I'm academics basically. I did my PhD from King's College London in 1995 in artificial intelligence, and this was mainly in the artificial neural networks. And even that time, before that, in '89, the internet was invented incidentally in Sun, Geneva. And people were thinking about this, that after the internet, we will not need a book and teacher. But it's my personal belief that there's no replacement to book and teachers. They will exist, but their role will be always changed. Like the teacher should not be like a teacher teaching in a classroom, is a moderator. And the nature of the classroom and university will also change. It will not be a place where people will go for teaching, but they'll go for maybe activities. That will convert it to activities. A classroom will be an activity place rather than a classroom for teaching purpose. So we actually know what is the expectation from a university. That is important, we need to know. I think, again, this is my personal belief, that universities are famous for research output. They're not famous because you see MIT, Harvard, Stanford, Cambridge, and these big names. Did you hear anywhere that so-and-so is a good teacher in MIT? We always talked about how many Nobel laureates in those universities, they are now competing in the number of Nobel laureates. And then when I was in King's College, Imperial College, UCL, and in Cambridge, they were always competing on this, that how many Nobel laureates they have. So always they talk about research. So our expectation from the university to create graduates that will go to industry, I think that is the mismatch. And there's the demand actually change. And that is change, maybe that's clashing with the philosophy of the existence of the university. And then another thing I have seen in the curriculum, because that is the area where also I work a lot. I'm also holding another position, that is the Vice Chairman of the Computing Council. Again, I'm responsible for those all mess that is created by the Computing Council. And we normally develop curriculum to enable students to learn skills. We are not actually teaching skills to them in the classrooms. The foundation, the fundamental aspects of the discipline is normally taught at the university. And the industry is actually asking for skills. They need something ready-made. And actually the industry in Pakistan, they're the medium, even they're not the medium. Most of the industry, especially in the IT, they are the small scale industries. So what they need ready-made people. They go and they start exporting software, and they're getting actually services industry. So they're getting maybe projects from outside, and they straight away need somebody to solve their problems. So that is the skill normally, and I think we should not teach only the skill, but we enable students to learn skills. So that's very important. The foundation, the fundamental aspects of this discipline should be taught at the university. So now coming to the HEC, what we are doing actually, we are also, to be honest, we are also confused that yes, we are part of the society, and the whole educational and the whole system is an ecosystem. The full ecosystem is required to be considered, and this includes industry, government, society, student, parents, and then the university itself. There are autonomous bodies. See, by Act and by this, one thing HEC is working on right now is trying to enable university, to make them enabled to make decisions. And the reason why the universities cannot make good decisions is maybe partially about the Act, like somebody mentioned, the Act and the rules regulation. What I think is the age of the university that is very important. And you see the age of university in Pakistan, 60 universities were in 2002-1, and now we have got 269 universities right now. So 200 university is in the age of just 25 years, which is not really. There are some university in KP especially, there's no teacher at this time, no permanent teacher available. All of them, they are running the university with the visiting teacher. And this is because of the age of the university is less than 10 years. So I think a university like with this age, and then you are expecting that university will actually do everything, that is something maybe does not match with the philosophy of the university. The university should be created. And another thing is our universities, they are generalized, most of them. They do everything. There's again because of the reflection of society, you see. If suppose sugar cane is giving good business to farmers, everybody start cultivating sugar cane. The same in the universities. If IT, that is the boom IT, everybody has started IT. Even most of the universities now have closed down engineering programs and they have started IT. See, and similarly, there was some like 10, 15 years ago, business degrees were at boom. So they stopped doing, even agriculture universities in some places, they have more students in IT than agriculture. And even some medical university, they started IT. So if you see, if you go to MIT and other universities, they have specialized program, they have a mindset, and they don't go out of that mindset. Here we do everything because why we are doing it? Because of the finance. It's because of the pressure they have from the government and from the HEC and other. You should produce, you should generate revenue. And I think it's again something serious issues that the university. I was vice chancellor in 3 universities. I don't write even with my CV now because it's a lot 3. If you even aspiring to be again vice chancellor, but see, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure when I was vice chancellor that we should generate revenue, which is again really if you see the total budget that we spent. I was even another thing I wanted to mention about technology because that is the subject. Right now we have this MB just 40 kbs, which is the kilobyte internet speed per student in Pakistan. And in ideal situation, it should be 1 MB, which is so there's a big difference. We are providing 100 GB internet to all 269 universities, and that we have 2.5 million students in the university. If I divide that by 2.5 million, that comes to just 40 kbs. And a small device in house that has got even more than 1, 2, 3 GB. So you see, there's something we need to look into that. We talk about AI. This AI, you see, uh, running an AI system. One is the Chat GPT. That is not maybe an AI. Is a generative language. If I want to make an AI model in a university that I can sell out to the industry, without HPC, which is high performance computing, GPUs, and now there's another thing is coming, it's called TensorFlow, TFU, that is coming. That chip has already come. Without GPU, how you can run AI models? It's not possible really. You can run an AI model with a large data sets. So these are some things that HEC is very much like into this, that how to ensure the freedom of the university, that is the main thing, how to ensure the academic freedom of the faculty and same academic freedom of the student, that is also important. So all these things, we are working on this to make them enable, like in one case we did like getting permission for masters and PhD degrees. It is self-assessment based now. You don't need to really apply. And there's another committee that I'm heading, that is on the ODL policy. So we are coming up with the ODL policy that university can start collaboration with each other, can even start collaboration with outside Pakistan universities, and they can work together on the ODL kind of education. That is a new thing. That's the need of the day, I think. So there's a lot of good things coming up, and the technology side, there's a lot of coming, and the HPC is coming in the UT Lahore. We are installing hybrid private cloud. This will be, I think, first in the South Asian country, that educational regulatory authority will have its own private cloud. And similarly, we have the data centers, which is already developed at the UT Lahore, and another is in ED Karachi. 2 data centers has already been established. These are tier 3 data centers. You need these things, otherwise infrastructure is very important. You cannot run AI, deep seek. If you are bringing it, you need to have GPU, otherwise.
Thank you.
Okay.
So हमारा टाइम थोड़ा सा ये है कि देर आर प्रोफेसर्स एंड आर्टिस्ट जो है ना, उनमें द कंपटीशन चल रहा है, तो उसके बाद आर्टिस्ट आने वाले हैं. So, Dr. Nadeem Javed, you can reflect on the discussion that we have been having on this reimagining the role of universities. But one aspect I want to just ask you, because you've been part of public policy, forums and decision-making bodies. The challenge that I see tomorrow for students, particularly, with the pace AI is being adopted by organizations, there will be really less demand of entry-level jobs, entry-level professionals in any company. Like if we talk about a software engineer, earlier there were 10 software engineers doing the same work that now probably 2 software engineers are doing. So it used to happen in technology, automation. You've been a scholar in this field as well. But the way things are now changing is actually that, technology is not just for, IT programs or computer science. How universities need to adopt AI and digital era, that a students of masters in Urdu, a student of masters in Islamic studies, in economics, sociology, why don't they need to learn AI? So this is something that we really need to understand, कि पब्लिक पॉलिसी के पर्सपेक्टिव में ये जो डिसरप्शन होगी, जो इतनी यूथ है, एजुकेटेड यूथ जो है, वी कैन नॉट अफोर्ड दैट अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट ऑलरेडी वेरी हाई. So 2 parts I want to request to you. One is obviously on the discussion that we have been having so far on reimagining universities, and second is public policy part, कि इस सारी discussion में how can we take care of our youth, how can we enable them that they are employable and they can play more constructive role in the society. उसके लिए universities को क्या changes करनी चाहिए?
Thank you, Iftikhar, for building this context, and I think whatsoever have been said so far is very, relevant and very pertinent to. So when we are saying reimagining university, of course, as Dr. Huma said, that is the classroom, as Dr. Saab said that is the professor. So all these ingredients make, something which we call university. And I'm coming back to the regulator's perspective, as Dr. Jamil Saab said, that the primarily we need to look at that what is the core job of the university. And I 100% agree that the core job of the university is to extend the knowledge frontier, and it's just like, might be that knowledge is not useful in that era for which, we are living in. Might be that knowledge is going to be very much relevant down the road. That's why, all the Nobel laureates, they get this recognition after 30, 40 years of their seminal work, which is being accorded, because by that time the society has embraced those ideas and they have incorporated it into the day-to-day functioning. So keeping in view this aspect, but of course when the knowledge frontier extension is the core job, then we cannot say that they are not responsible to train the minds. Okay, when I'm saying training the minds, then it's different. That's the basic difference between education and training. We used to have this distinction, and education is that over where you train the mind so that the person can use that knowledge into the different contexts. Okay, but the training is over where you give a certain kind of way of doing thing in particular context, and the moment you remove that context, the guy is totally irrelevant and that skill is totally irrelevant. So that's why the technology polytechnic institutes, those have been created for the guys who have lower level of IQ, but eventually you can use them because of multiple reasons, because due to the paucity of time, that's not the time to develop on that. But when it comes to the higher level IQs, that's why GRE and other tests are there to evaluate the IQs. And then the IQ level is beyond certain level, then you feel that this guy is good for doing PhD or doing this job of carrying out research for the decades to come. And what's the limitation? Now, having this context, let me talk to the limitations of digital era. The most important limitation of the digital era is that whatsoever is being there with the help of we are having from the chat GPT or from machines in this context, this all revolution or eruption is there because the hundreds year of knowledge is beneath this what we are observing right now. And all this has been created into that primary research which Dr. Saab has just mentioned. If we are going to take away this role from the universities just to look at this small window over where there is a mismatch of skills, and we think that okay, now perhaps the universities are going to be no more needed or are going to be irrelevant. So then basically what we are killing, that we are killing this flow of that knowledge which is then going to continue to feed in, and on that basis the generations to come after 100, 200 years, they are then going to take the advantage of that knowledge. So if we want to disrupt that creation of knowledge which is happening, just look at the basically chemistry professor, physicist, biologist, zoologist, what they are doing they are creating that kind of very basic new discovery which is not if that would not have been there, then today's this digital era would not have been on that particular level. So now keeping in view this, what it will not be possible, that is this digital era can offer, and then the guys which are being for which we are talking about to reimagine university, these are Generation Z and Generation Alpha. I also talked about this yesterday in the presidential address. So, and one thing is very clear, they do things differently, as we, the analog generation perhaps cannot sometimes even imagine the pulse from where that is coming, because being the parents, we all know this. So what is the most important thing is that that is the decision making. So, I mean, at the day end, all the knowledge we have, it dialed down to one very core competence for the human being, and that is decision making. And then moving on, I just take it to a step ahead, the contextual decision making. Yes, because it's right that the good surgeon is not the one who knows how to operate, rather the one who knows when to operate. Similarly, they says that the good general are not the one who knows, how to wage the war, rather the one who knows when to wage the war and when to surrender as well. So, this is what is contextual decision making. And if we as professors and then the institutions or where we are, surveying, these are not inculcating this sense among this Z and Alpha generation who have a very particular problem of attention span. Because now the attention span, there was a time they were saying that is a 3-minute attention span, and then after that you need something that is, you should crack a joke as a professor, you should again grab the attention of your audience and then give the next concept. But now this attention span has been reduced to 20 seconds. And might be, yes, the another view is that it is 3 to 5 seconds. So, so now the challenge is that in this context, how to then reimagine that. And one thing is very clear, the universities will remain there. We cannot, of course. But when we compare ourselves, our universities with the one which, the yardstick we use, the most of the famous names which Dr. Jamil has just pointed out. Of course, first of all, there is a big gap. Okay, and then now having this modern, new, era in which digital kind of a thing will going to play an important role. This divide is going to increase or we are going to converge. So there was a very interesting lecture yesterday by Professor Saveti, and his theory points out that there is a possibility that if you have the capacity to take this knowledge properly in the way, and then you can apply it, then there is a possibility that you can converge to the level over where the advanced societies are operating right now. So now I'm in this context, I think our job now as a professor or as a university is going to increase manifold, because primarily it was the focus on IQ, and we need to, we were taking very good IQ, with IQ guys, the guys who are with very good IQ, and then preparing them for the future. But now I think this function of the university is going to be taken over by the artificial intelligence or machine. Why? Because they can offer you much more swiftly. It's just like, we had the encyclopedias in libraries when we were studying, and to seek a very important some information, we need to spend at least 30 minutes just to find the relevant volume, and then to reach to the relevant page and then read it. But then when it all came in the digital form, it made the job very much easy, and then Wikipedia came, the free mod, and it even made the job very much easy. So this function of improving the IQ is now, rest with it. But there are emotional intelligence. that's Dr. Homa just very rightly pointed out. Then there is social quotient. All these now guys, to whom you call, the gig economy. Just look at, I have met few guys. They cannot talk to you, face to face, eyes to eye, just for 1 minute. And because if they are spending all day and night with the gadget, that's a serious problem. How to then take care of this particular aspect is the social quotient is equally important as IQ. Emotional quotient is even more important than IQ. As we were hearing in the morning, there's the mental disorders, where the society is going. And then the last one, and the most important one, and perhaps for which, the universities, we also got trained, never trained us for that. That is adversity quotient. So then in the face of adversity, how to, absorb that adverse phase of life and then again make yourself ready to start a new life. I think no university or no institution or no professor is only, I mean, some of the few good mentors we came across in our lives, they trained us for perhaps that, or your parents might have trained us for that. But generally, the university never, I mean, touched upon that. So I think now these three other dimensions, which were not already focused, are going to be much more important in the digital age. And together all this is then going to make that absorptive capacity, which I have talked about, and the Abramovitz concept, that we cannot take the advantage of the artificial intelligence until we have that, I mean, a certain degree of absorptive capacity to use these technologies for our societal welfare. So now coming back to your concern, I believe that there are few technologies which, as a student of technological catching up and technological change, what we have learned over the period of when I was preparing my PhD thesis or even my MPhil degree. So there is like there are two kind of possibilities. You can divide the technologies in. One is self-propelling. Okay, like just look at, I mean, nobody asked the common man to install solar panels on their roof, because it was the, I mean, feasibility, it was the, proposition that made the people, and once somebody installed it, it was the word of mouth. And then now the way, I mean, this technology is being diffused is very encouraging. Similarly, there are certain technologies and those are not of, that much worth and value at that point of time, but certainly certain, in future, they could become very much important. And for that, then the visionary leaders of the sectors, visionary politicians, they look at them and then they try to inculcate them. And for that, then you need to make a lot of effort. So similarly, all those now which are self-propelling technology, self-propelling skill sets, I mean, you don't need to worry about them. People are going to learn them. Just look at them when the Oracle came. It was just, hardly 3 months, and there were a lot of train the trainer program. I could recall in 2001, 2, and after the train the trainer program, every university in Pakistan was doing that, and within I think couple of few months, we had army of experts on that technology. Just then look at ERP and some other things. So similarly, for these skills, I think we should not worry about. And once they are there are always quick fixes, and you can train the people and you can engage them. But for me, the most critical aspect is that is the management of this technological eruption from these sociological angles, which I have just pointed out. And I would like to listen from the audience as well, and from the other learned colleagues here.
Thank you,
on this.
हम थोड़े से क्वेश्चन सिर्फ 3 से 4 लेते हैं, वन बाय वन लेंगे. Be precise, and then we can ask all the panelists to reflect on these questions. So because we have 10 more minutes, and so 2 क्वेश्चन मैं रखना चाह रहा था और भी पैनलिस्ट के सामने. And I think one of probably you mentioned about the need of such huge infrastructure for universities. I understand Dr. Nadeem Javed mentioned that universities will continue to play a research role. But what kind of research? And do we need that sort of brick and mortar structure of universities that currently we've established? Large estate and infrastructure. What will be that future actually?
Yes.
तो इसी तरह का एक और क्वेश्चन जो लूमिंग क्राइसिस है पाकिस्तान में, वो ग्रेजुएट्स की अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट या अंडर एम्प्लॉयमेंट है इस वक्त पाकिस्तान में. यू मेंशन प्रोबेबली इंजीनियर्स, एंड आपने सोशल साइंसेस की भी बात की है. So you keep these 2 questions with yourself. So last, just I'll give you 1 minute only to reflect on these both questions, and then other 3 questions that we are taking. So it's a difficult job to moderate a panel with professors, और professors भी वो जो vice chancellor बन चुके हों. तो anyhow, so आप बताएं जी.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम. मेरा क्वेश्चन HEC के मेंबर से है. मैं PhD का स्टूडेंट हूँ, और हमारे एक के अंदर हमें अंडरस्टैंडिंग कुरान और इस तरह के सब्जेक्ट्स भी दिए गए हैं। तो इस तरह के इररिलेवेंट सब्जेक्ट्स को क्या हम एचईसी की जो डेल्सी प्रोग्राम है इसको हार्नेस करके क्या रिप्लेस नहीं कर सकते कि वो जो स्टूडेंट्स ने कोर्सेरा के थ्रू कुछ कोर्सेज किए हुए हैं उनको उन क्रेडिट आवर्स में एडजस्ट करके एक तो हम अप टू डेट कर सकते हैं अपनी लर्निंग को और जो इंडस्ट्री के रेलेवेंट भी है और जो इररिलेवेंट चीज़ें हैं उनको हम अपने डिग्री प्रोग्राम से निकाल सकते हैं।
थैंक यू जी, थैंक यू। आई थिंक पॉइंट वेल टेकन। जो विल कम टू नैनो क्रेडिट्स, माइक्रो क्रेडिट्स. We started with Dr. Saad Liaqat's conversation on this idea of universities collaborating with other partners, and I think that question is still lingering on, so we'll come to the universities.
This is really a great honor to speak to so many learned people. Actually, I was taking my notes and doing some prompt engineering on ChatGPT during the session to ask the questions, but it really logged out right now. So I'll be back with my, no, just two questions. So my one question is, number one question is that in this fast pace, like information flow and different types of skills and things, like is it really a matter for the universities to produce the job seekers, or they want to be more focused on producing the purpose-driven change agents? This is my first question. And my second question is from Dr. Huma, that is it really possible to teach entrepreneurship?
So I'm giving chance to younger
Assalamu
people
alaikum,
जो है आप
I'm
अपने
Hekir
grievances
from
भी
PIDE.
बताएं।
मेरा क्वेश्चन जो है वो डॉक्टर हुमा से ये है, हमने स्टार्ट किया री इमेजिंग यूनिवर्सिटी, देन री इमेजिंग क्लासरूम, फाइनली री इमेजिंग प्रोफेसर। तो आप प्लीज़ इसके ऊपर भी डिस्कशन कीजिए कि हमें क्या स्टूडेंट्स के रोल को री इमेज करने की ज़रूरत है कि नहीं। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
ग्लोबली सर क्लीन एनर्जी की ट्रांजिशन हो रही है। यूनाइटेड नेशंस के भी जो एसडीजीज हैं उसमें एसडीजी 7 इज क्लीन एंड चीप एनर्जी। बड़ी फॉर्चुनेट दो चीज़ें हुई, एक ग्लोबली जो सोलर पैनल्स की प्राइसेस हैं वो डाउन हो गई। जो पैनल 140 रुपये वॉट था, इट गॉट ड्रॉप डाउन टू 30 रुपीज़ वॉट पैनल की प्राइस। और चाइना ने जो पैनल्स भेजने थे टीयर 1 के अमेरिका और यूरोप की मार्केट में, उधर एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी लग गई, तो वो सारे पैनल्स जो हैं वो पाकिस्तान आ गए। अब लकीली ये था कि हमारी जो एनर्जी पॉलिसी थी उसके मुताबिक 2030 तक हमने 30% रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी का शेयर करना था, जो कि इस वक्त भी 4 और 5% पे था।
क्या करें?
हाँ, यूनिवर्सिटीज में यह है कि नाउ गवर्नमेंट इज शूटिंग ऑन द फुट। वो ये कर रही हैं कि वो जो नेट मीटरिंग का रिजीम है उसको रिवाइज कर रहे हैं, जिससे डिस्करेज हो रहा है। 3 years बैक जो पैनल इंपोर्ट हुए वो 6 गीगावाट। अभी
यूनिवर्सिटीज क्या करें? अभी
यूनिवर्सिटीज शुड एडवाइस टू द गवर्नमेंट कि वो नेट मीटरिंग के रिजीम को रिवाइज ना करें एंड लेट दी
को कहेंगे वो करेंगे,
लीप फ्रॉग कर लें उसको एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन।
थैंक यू जी। मोइन साहब, लास्ट क्वेश्चन आपसे।
सर क्वेश्चन ये है कि जो 73 का स्ट्रक्चर अभी तक चल रहा है तो डिसरप्ट कैसे किया जाए? देखें, अगर चेंज लाना है तो डिसरप्ट करना पड़ेगा, तो तरीका बताएं कि ये जो सारा इकोसिस्टम है 269 यूनिवर्सिटीज का, ये पूरी तरह डिसरप्ट हो जाए और इसमें से एक नए यूनिवर्सिटीज इमर्ज करें। थैंक यू।
सो मैंने क्वेश्चन सेशन बंद कर दिया था, लेकिन मेरे उस्ताद भी बैठे हुए हैं, तो इसलिए
Thank you, Arman ji. I think is a very short question relating to it as well. What Moin Saab said is the political economy of higher education. We are reimagining the universities from the perspective of knowledge and so from the teachers, students, and classroom and so, but not from the role of government. Means how the government is reimagining the universities. That is a very important. In one way or the other, giving 400 million, 600 million. Fazal Saab said very rightly, in fancy stage of the universities. But at the same time, if you look at the challenges, economic challenges, particularly Dr. Zubair is also mentioned, and the big universities are facing, the small universities are facing, and at the same time, the government is playing the political economy role in a way that every 30 and 35 kilometers there is a university in KPK, and even in the Punjab as well. So how the government can reimagine the universities?
को डी इमेजिनिंग भी कह सकते हैं। So in any case, I would request our panelist if you can reflect on these questions. Plus, so just 1 minute if you can summarize
Just
your
if you allow
remarks.
me, ma'am, आपने जो professor की बात की, तो I just wanted to share an anecdote about a professor's role in a. If you allow me, it's a small crack, a joke that I want to crack. That in any international university, there was a class going on, and there was a news that broke. There was an accident, and one of their classmates have unfortunately met that accident, and he has died. Cut to that point where that young man has about to die, has been there for the last moments. The angel comes in, and he said that, okay, I'm going to take you away. He just pleads with him that please give me one more day. I just want to spend one more day. And this is all about the student's environment. So he says that, okay, I don't have 1 day's time. I can give you only 1 hour. So where do you want to spend that 1 hour? He said that I want to go to Professor A's class. So he said, okay, I'll send you to the Professor A's class, and abracadabra. And he was there in the classroom. And everybody was happily surprised that we have heard that you have died and this and that. So what really happened? So he retold the story that I met an accident. I asked the angel to please give me 1 day. He gave me only 1 hour. So here I am in your classroom to spend the one last hour of my life with you. The professor's bosom just expanded like that. Oh, I'm so favorite. I'm so good a teacher that you are spending your last 1 hour with me. The child said, no, professor. Your lecture is so painful that 1 hour is like a lifetime. So this painfulness of the professor's environment has to change. The redundancy that I talked about earlier is what is going to kill all the professors professionally. All redundant element is going to be taken away. And the point Moin Saab has just pointed out, that the decision making, I often talk to the political economic leaders, the bureaucracy, the political elders and other people. I just say one thing, please let us breathe and we will deliver you. When I say that there is a regulatory stranglehold around my neck as a vice chancellor, and every other vice chancellor can relate to that, it's not only about act, it's not only about policies, it's the very essence of decision making. If as a disruptor, I want to make a decision, as a vice chancellor, I'm saying you do, I cannot take that decision. Because of that stranglehold that is around my neck, and because of that 73 environment, because of the political economy and the bureaucratic structure. I was just referring to, sir, कि मैंने अगर छुट्टी लेनी हो ना, छुट्टी, तो मुझे 13 डिफरेंट ऑफिसेज में से गुजरना पड़ता है. तो आप फरमाइए कि मैं डिसरप्शन के बारे में डिसीजन कब लूं, कहां से लूं और कैसे लूं.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Last, I think sabat ek tagayyar ko hai zamane mein. The change is happening. The point is that it may not be very fast, but I think conferences and meetings like this one actually are very important and critical to bring all the stakeholders and the government officials to make them aware and realize that how fast the world is moving. And the academics, along with the policymakers and the regulators, I think is very important and critical to bring the kind of change. Yes, you're right that in spite of all the difficulties Dr. Saab is mentioning, still you can bring a lot of good examples in Pakistan, and you can do it. I mean, within the limitations in spite. But if you remove all these difficulties, certainly the pace of development is much more economic. University's role is very important, and these are the places of learning for scholarship, for research and innovation. Of course, employment is one of the big requirement, but if you look at the graduate attributes of the different programs, then you realize that at the end of the 3-year or 4-year, how you are going to attain those. And if comp skills and if lifelong learning is not there, then how you can actually expect that the student would attain those learning outcomes. So these are the difficulties and challenges in the curriculum that we have to look at it. And of course, all these things that and the points that have been raised, students are very important stakeholders. The UK government has started the Office of Students. They have come up with the teaching excellence framework. They have brought this research excellence framework. HEC is now planning to have updation of their ORICs with these new models that other countries are following. So I think the technology is very critical to bring the kind of change and also the learning outcome. I mean, with these 270 universities, how can you bring the learning outcome? But I think if you adopt the technology, you can save a lot of difficulties. And the other important thing is coordination and resource sharing of the universities, which you were talking earlier about brick and mortar. We have limited resources, and people say resources are limited, but creativity is unlimited. So we have to see that how best we can use those resource sharing facilities, or just keep on replicating the same kind of programs in all universities and then expecting different results. That may not be possible. Thank you.
To the questions that came my way, there was just one word about this young gentleman who's a PhD student and who spoke about how you're being instructed to do Quranic teachings right up to PhD level. We've also been instructed to do character building at Karachi University level, not just Karachi University. So like what I said in my earlier comments, it is this constant mindset to privilege order over everything else. So it is about indoctrination, it is about societal engineering, and because we know that 70% of our demographic portion is youth, the entire focus is towards universities. To the extent that with the insurgency is happening, we are also asked to identify students who may have those tendencies. Now, universities work differently. They don't work with indoctrination. They work with allowing critical thinking to emerge to a point where you reject negativity. So I think that is a basic framework that needs to be addressed, and I don't know at what level and who will. And then I was asked a question on entrepreneurship and if we can teach entrepreneurship. You know, we have also with this, again, a problem of the society, because we cannot have jobs for our graduates. So we've come up with a narrative that there should be entrepreneurship and we should be asking students to become job creators rather than job seekers. Again, a very limited focus on a problem. Entrepreneurship is a mindset. It is a mindset where you think out of the box and you find solutions. And you can be sitting anywhere and be an entrepreneur. It's not about startups alone. So that may have responded, I am trying to respond to that question. And then reimagining the student, this question from this side, if we should reimagine the students, we are stuck in what I call a capitalist paradigm of teaching. We work for profits and not for needs. In societies like ours, we become confused where we merge the whole construct of making profits and catering to needs. So student is largely a consumer. And for private universities, it is about attracting the consumer. Essentially that. But the profits or the market will work for profits, and the profit makers will work in areas where there is a potential for profits. But more than half of Pakistan, it has to have a need-oriented approach and not a profit-oriented approach. So I think those are basic constructs that need to be understood. And yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you so much.
I think I'll pick up where you're leaving. In a way, I start with the political economy. So I just give a little bit my 2 pence on it, not the whole aspect of it, before I move to other aspect. I think higher education is a luxury. It's not a right. And I think this is people have thought wrongly in the society. Okay, going to university, having university education is a must. And this is creating problem with the political economy and creating more universities and sending and funding those universities. So outside Pakistan, perhaps, I mean, my UK experience and even USA doesn't happen. My daughter went to University of Leeds. She has a £50,000 debt to pay off. And she will, as she get a job, she'll be carry on paying it. That's how it works if you're going to universities. Not everything is paid for. Yeah, so I think this is where I think we have to start thinking about imagining future graduates who put money from their own pocket. Damn well they will be learning in the classroom. Damn well will be responsible. Damn well they will be taking the ownership of learning and get a job. Whatever degree they do, even they do English, literature, they do social science, they will be so good whatever they do, get a job in the end. And this is where the problem, one of the problem is. But because, but you cannot take away a role of universities altogether. Because if you see about the developed countries, UK, America, France, there's 1% of intellectuals who are running the whole society, whole country. Only 1% who goes to their Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, and so on. They are needed for forward thinking, future thinking, and they're making the policy making and they're taking the whole, and this is their role. So I think we cannot take away the role of universities, what they can contribute in terms of innovation, in terms of thinking, and in terms of societal building. So that aspect has to be done. I'll come to the other question, which was about character building element. And I think the problem university has to face is that we are doing those things which should be done in the school level. The school and college level, those things have not been done. We're teaching Islamic studies. Still 5 पिलर हैं इस्लाम के ना, वो चेंज नहीं हुआ. अभी करिकुलम देखा वही है जो मैंने बचपन में 40 साल पहले पढ़ा था 5वीं क्लास में. Still same thing they are teaching in the university. They are fed up. Students are fed up with same thing learning. हमें they are not learning critical thinking. लेकिन ये कहते हैं कि उन्होंने क्योंकि मिस आउट कर दिया है, कैरेक्टर बिल्डिंग नहीं हुई है, तो वही इस्लामियात के, वही पाकिस्तान स्टडीज के. And I look at the Pakistan studies curriculum. It's not my subject. I was horrified to see कि Pakistan studies curriculum, मैंने कहा उसमें reading list तो दो. There was no one Pakistani author in the book. So whose philosophy you're reading? You know, which curriculum you're reading? I'm asking these questions from those social scientists who are developing these curriculums. एक और जो पॉइंट सुबह भी क्वेश्चन हुआ था, उस वक्त मैं खैर टाइम नहीं था, जो मैं बात करूंगा इस वक्त वो AI के रिलेटेड है कि is AI going to take over universities and उस्ताद का रोल है, can they take over? It's not going to happen. देखिए जो रोबोटिक का कॉन्सेप्ट था 1937 में आई रोबोट, आइजैक एसिमोव का एक नॉवल था लिटरेचर का, वहाँ से शुरू हुआ था. 1952 में ट्यूरिंग ने कहा मशीन एज इंटेलिजेंट मशीन एज ए ह्यूमन बीइंग. उसके बाद 70s में जो ना जब कंप्यूटर आया उसके बाद डेटाबेस शुरू हुई. यू नो वी लर्न अबाउट डेटाबेस SQL एंड ऑल बेसिक थिंग, आपको तो याद ही होगा. उसके बाद हमने जो ना डेटाबेस के बाद एक्सपर्ट सिस्टम शुरू किया. First expert system which I learned was Dendril and Mason और Mycin कह लें. वो डॉक्टर्स के लिए था कि मेडिकल डॉक्टर्स को 1970s में अगर उनको हेल्प चाहिए, वहाँ से एक्सपर्ट सिस्टम का जो ना AI की जो ना शुरुआत हुई थी. लेकिन वो यही था कि डॉक्टर को रिप्लेस कर देंगे. अभी मैं किसी यूनिवर्सिटी में जाता हूँ, मुझे ये क्वेश्चन होता है कि AI is going to replace human being. It's not going to happen. क्योंकि देखिए डेटा से गए हम इंफॉर्मेशन पर, इंफॉर्मेशन के बाद हम गए नॉलेज पर. इन अर्ली 90s Sheffield Business School, I was the first program director of MSc in knowledge management in the world, and I had the students coming in, flying in for weekends from New York, from Sydney, and from York in Canada, only for taking that class. Like now after a few years that dispersed. Knowledge management stayed only one subject as one course, but not a whole program thing. उसके बाद AI की बात आई. So you have data, you have information, you have knowledge, you have intelligence. So we're dealing with intelligence. But there is one thing we should not forget. Beyond intelligence comes wisdom. And as long as human beings are wise, the professor individuals, we are wise, will be above the artificial intelligence. So I think we have to look at, are we developing our intellect to the level that we stay human and with wisdom. I think we will be winning the game as long as we do that.
Coming back to the, I think, political economy question, that there is a lot of, at every 30 kilometer we have a university. But I think this is one side. If you look at the other side of the data, we are, I think, tertiary enrollment is hardly 13%. But when you compare it, India is 32%, Sri Lanka 26%. So even in the region, we are, I mean, half of what our neighboring countries have. So, I mean, when we look at that data, even the existing number of universities are not enough, keeping in view the way, I mean, every year we are adding in one New Zealand to the Pakistan's population. So you could imagine, when it comes to, I mean, of course, their financial management, I think partially there was an answer that if private universities can earn, why the public sector universities can't, I mean, have their financial models, or where they are going to have some additional sources of earning? Why, I mean, they are not diversifying from their, I mean, very narrow base to the broader base? There's a big question, and we as a professors should ask, and we also as I mean, citizens should consider that. And eventually the budgets will always remain constrained, keeping in view every year universities will continue to increase, number of universities will continue to increase, number of students will continue to increase. But that's how, I mean, where is the creativity of the professors and the universities itself? So they have to look at that, I mean, how to, I mean, particularly financial sustainability could be, I mean, added to their existing governance model. And then coming to this question of, I mean, disruption, I don't think so that disruption is going to pay anybody in the society. Is always evolution. I mean, if you look at even to the Europe after Second World War, even to the other, I mean, just a very recent example is Vietnam. I mean, they went through such a, I mean, hectic guerrilla warfare, and then the nation built itself. And again, they are, as a resilient nation, they are there. And keeping in view this, we are also very resilient. Just look at, I mean, $32 billion we lost in one floods. I mean, we had 2 wars. India never, I mean, gave us the due share after the partition. But the nation continued to, I mean, operate, continue to grow. And of course, the kind of development we have is, we should appreciate it. But of course, there are imperfections as well. We need to build them, but we need to build them with a mindset of evolutionary approach rather than to think about revolutions or disruptions. So that's what is my humble, I mean, suggestion on that. Yes, please.
So I'll only address one of the points by my brother here who mentioned being agents of change, and Dr. Homa's comment about universities being places for critical thinking, and sort of that gives me an idea that it should be freedom of thought and freedom of expression within moral bounds of society and so on. But I recall my time at a university where I was forced to attend classes, and it still goes on. My daughter goes to university, my eldest one, she's university going, and she goes to what I would think is a progressive university in Pakistan, and they are still forced to attend classes. Attendance is taken, and if she skips more than a certain percentage, then she can't sit exams. She lost her love for learning, whatever she wanted to do in the first semester. And I had to reprogram her to stop thinking about that because this is something she cannot change. I recall my time where I was almost expelled from the university because I refused to attend classes of certain teachers that did not inspire me. I still got A grades, that's why they kept me enrolled, but SRA case, and still goes on. So then we have, by virtue of sort of the society we live in, we are not allowed to think freely and act freely and so on. So that won't change quickly or within a generation. But being agents of change, at least universities historically and globally have been places where thought and expression has been allowed to nurture. And if, as vice chancellors, this is not an answer to the gentleman, but as vice chancellors, whatever within your limits you can do, at least if you can do away with the attendance policy and allow them to live and breathe within universities. I don't know if you can do that or not.
Was again the very good question, especially disruption. That is another meeting also we are talking about this. I think it will only come within the university. Nobody from outside can bring it to the university because of the society that we have, because of the culture that we have. And who will bring the disruption and change in the university is the teacher. If they, with the teacher when they change the commercial thinking, the disruption will automatically come. Because our teacher, student, university, all these three entities, they are so now commercial. They are only thinking about money, only thinking about the revenue generation and all. If that thinking, that mindset is changed, then the disruption will come. It cannot come from outside. And the question about the PhD student, about the Quranic study, and that is also, the issue is not with this, that what we are asking, each is here, somebody asking about the Quranic study or any the Pakistan studies, the curricula that we have is very rigid. It does not actually encourage the academic freedom of the student. That is the issue. Actually, we do not need to give the list of courses, fix it. We need to give the framework of the curriculum. That is important. So if that comes, like if you go to the top class universities in the world, you will not see that there will be fixed courses. They will just say core 1, core 2, elective 1, elective 2. It's up to the student and to the teacher. Whatever courses they can teach, whatever courses good for them, they can teach in that. And then you just come up with competency levels, the KPIs. That is important. It's not I write the contents. If I write the course contents, I'm killing the creativity. And that is what the HEC, that is a mistake we have done by the council and the curriculum committees that we have. They are fixing everything so much that you don't have any freedom as a teacher, do not have any freedom as a university. And that attendance issue, all those things, that should be left to the university only. The competency, what I need from a bachelor's degree, what I need from a PhD degree, and what I need from a master's degree. That is important. Only I need the KPI. And I can give you one example about the courses. You see, if you study the Chinese curricula and the Chinese academics structure, they are teaching 160 credit out to the bachelor student. They are teaching philosophy of Mao Zedong, they are teaching the communism philosophy and so on. You see their engineering courses, engineering discipline. And here in Pakistan, if we just increasing from 130 to 131, even students, they start crying. So I think we need to also change our mind that we need to study more and more. And the philosophy is very important, especially the Quranic study. Looking to this from this point of view, what competency I'm getting from the Quranic study or Pakistan study, not only this, what is actually the course contents. So these are something that I wanted to say.
Thank you.
When we were talking about political economy of universities, I think we have we're being very Pakistan specific. What is happening in the United States with Harvard and Columbia is also political economy of universities.
Not a good example to be followed. So in any case, I think we are concluding it. And Dr. Zubair mentioned about that 1 hour of, with that professor. So all of you had 2 hours with 8 professors actually. So I really appreciate your patience. Yeah. So I won't be summarizing today's conversation. That again, ChatGPT has actually taken over that job of summarizing everything. Research paper, literature, books. So I think there is an important discussion that we had. And this should continue. And obviously this was one panel. So all of these subjects, all of these issues that we've raised, they require in-depth discussion. And as a moderator, I'll also submit my report to the PIDE, and I think they can take it forward, how they can build this agenda, and they can continue this dialogue, engaging more with the government, students, and also next time having, students in the panel as well, so that they can also tell us that how we need to reimagine ourselves. So more women on the panel. So thank you very much, everyone. To the PIDE, Dr. Nadeem Javed, and all these panelists.